Campus Principal and Pro-Vice Chancellor, Professor Clement Sankat, Campus Deputy Principal, Professor Rhoda Reddock, Professor Emeritus Carl Theodore, our honoree, Dr. Carissa Etienne, Director of the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, our feature speaker for this morning, Dr. Edward Green, United Nations Secretary General's Special Envoy for AIDS in the Caribbean, the Head of the Department of Economics, Dr. Anne-Marie Mohammed, other members of the Diplomatic Corps, representatives of our sponsors, former heads of the Department of Economics, relatives of the honoree, other specially invited guests, members of academic staff, students, other members of the campus community, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and a warm welcome to the conference of the Economy 2015, the 7th annual conference of the Department of Economics. I also wish to specially welcome Dr. Carissa Etienne, Director of PAHO, who readily accepted our invitation to be the feature speaker at this ceremony. It is a tradition of the department to honor the contribution of former heads of the Department of Economics at this conference. The theme of this year's conference, Managing Development in Caribbean Economies, the Key Role of Health and Social Security, was specially selected to showcase and celebrate the academic scholarship and public service contribution of Professor Emeritus Carl Theodore for some 44 years of service to the Department of Economics here at St. Augustine, the wider St. Augustine campus of the University of the West Indies, the Regional University of the West Indies, the Caribbean region, and other parts of the world. Professor Theodore has undoubtedly been the longest serving academic within the Department of Economics. His early research focused largely on fiscal policy in a developmental context, concentrating on the role of public policy. He later turned his research focus to that of health economics and founded the Health Economics Unit, now elevated to the Campus Center for Economics. He founded that center in 1995. Since his retirement from the Department of Economics, he has been serving as the director of the Health Economics Unit. His CV is some 41 pages long, and so we've taken the opportunity of mounting a display of a summary of that CV at the entrance of the LRC, and I ask that during the break you find the time to view that display. As director of the HEU, he has collaborated with many local, regional, and international agencies, and so I want to extend a special welcome to the representatives of those agencies who are present here this morning. Mine is the pleasant task of guiding the proceedings of this morning's opening ceremony. And so, conscious of the need to manage the time allocated for the ceremony, I now invite our current head of department, Dr. Anne-Marie Mohammed, to formally bring you greetings on behalf of the department. Dr. Mohammed.
Thank you, Chair, Mr. Martin Franklin, PVC and Campus Principal, Professor Clement Sankat, Deputy Principal, Dr. Rhoda Reddock, Dean, Faculty of Social Sciences, Professor Anne-Marie Bissessar, Feature Speaker, Dr. Carissa Etienne, Director of PAHO, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Honorary Professor Emeritus Carl Theodore, heads of departments in the Faculty of Social Sciences, representatives of our sponsors, other specially invited guests, conference presenters, faculty colleagues, UE students, secondary school students and their teachers, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, and once again, a warm welcome to the Conference of the Economy 2015, the 9th annual conference of the Department of Economics. The idea of an annual conference on the economy has evolved into much more than a main tool for crafting policy recommendations that could be considered by the government of today. It is a continuing conversation on the transformation of Caribbean economies given the volatile economic environment. This conference continues to be the department's main form of outreach to the national and regional community and has become a landmark event on the university's calendar. This year, as you heard from our chair, the team managing for development in Caribbean economies, the key role of health and society security and social security. As is customary, it has been centered around the contribution of a previous head of department, Professor Emeritus Carl Theodore, and it has made for a pretty interesting two-day program which would examine the lessons learned and suggest a way forward as we seek to understand our Caribbean realities and Caribbean-oriented solutions. Given the time allotted to this year's conference, the 2 days will incorporate a mixture of armchair discussions and structured panels which will revolve around 7 sub-themes, namely universal access to health, economic and social perspectives around communicable and non-communicable diseases, social security challenges and opportunities, health and sustainable development, role of regional institutions, health and equity considerations towards attaining sustainable development, public policy resource allocation challenges in health and public policy, and resource challenges in health. For the first time, the armchair discussions will be contained as part of the day's proceedings to encourage a greater deal of participation and discussion around these core issues in health and sustainable development. The department is pleased to maintain as part of its conference activities the undergraduate student debate and secondary schools student debate, the undergraduate essay competition and secondary school essay competition, and the graduate poster competition where graduate students share with the wider public the quality of research done here in the department. These features are aimed at extending the outreach of the Department of Economics to sixth form students and to encourage critical thinking. The winners will be announced and the related prizes will be distributed later on in the program. I wish to place on record the appreciation of the Department of Economics for the support received from the Ministry of Education, which has given the students of the schools leave to participate in these competitions. This year, the conference honors Professor Emeritus Carl Theodore, the former head of the Department of Economics during the period 1998 to 2005, University Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences, 1994 to 1995, Vice Chancellor's nominee to the Board of Graduate Studies and Research, 1997 to present, Coordinator Health Economics Unit, 1995 to 2008, and then Director, Center for Health Economics, 2008 to this present time. Professor Theodore has contributed over 132 conference and seminar papers, completed 15 technical reports for regional governments, 20 health publications. He has supervised 47 graduate research projects, written 2 books, 22 chapters in books, and journal articles. The Department of Economics salutes Professor Theodore for his outstanding scholarship and leadership, and his long period of dedicated and impactful service to the national and regional communities. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference recognizes the imperative for the department to provide a varied learning experience for our students and also to maintain a dialogue between academia and the wider community. With these words, I welcome you to this year's conference on behalf of the staff of the Department of Economics and on my own behalf. And I trust that your time spent at the conference will be beneficial to all present and will help us to chart our way to understanding our realities and discovering solutions to assist in managing for development within our Caribbean economies. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Principal of the University of the West Indies, Professor Clement Sankat. Deputy Principal, Professor Rhoda Reddock. Professor Emeriti, Professor Carl Theodore, beautiful person. Dr. Anne-Marie Mohammed, Head of the Department of Economics. Dr. Carissa Etienne, feature speaker, Director of the Pan-American Health Organization. Ladies, gentlemen, heads of departments, colleagues, welcome to this event. This event, and I must apologize for my being late, I have never missed a COTE event in my life at the University of the West Indies. But like the economy, I was faced with a number of challenges when my battery refused to start, when the traffic hit me, and then I recognized, good Lord, the economy is a very, very real thing. And this conference is not only about economics, not about the squigglies we talk about, but it's about real things. Sitting in my van, I heard about a debate on whether the rapid rail should come in or not. I listened as people suggested on one side of the fence that the new increase in gas, the implications of that. And at the same time, I'm trying to listen to the other side to defend it and say, well, we increased gasoline, but at the same time, we sent up your personal tax, we allowed for personal increases in your allowances. What this conference does, and it's a real conference, this conference balances. We are not either or of the politicians, like political science. We are not either or of managing or massaging. This conference is about placing details, placing the facts, and using statistics to craft a way forward. This is why I was always and have always and will continue to be an avid fan of this conference. This conference is a keeper principle. It reaches out to people, but reaches in a way that other disciplines can't. Many of our disciplines try to be diplomatic. In political science, for instance, we try to see both sides massage. This is a hard, hard science. The data will reveal whether or not this is the way forward for healthcare. The data will reveal whether or not national insurance the system should change. And Prof has been knocking on that door for years, for decades. I have known Prof Kiddo coming and saying, listen, it must change. I acknowledge that fight. The data will show whether or not by increasing gas, whether that sent up the cost of doubles this morning, or whether doubles was going up on its own. But this conference will reveal that. This conference, and I'm shocked that I'm not seeing more students. This conference, I'm shocked I'm not seeing more politicians. This conference is going to place for the first time healthcare as a real cost to the nation and what it means. I am sitting down in the oncology center every week for hours, for days, and I recognize while people work hard, the money is just not there to service everything we need. I've been sitting in the hospital systems. Something is wrong. Something is wrong when I leave St. Helena, which is 30 minutes away, at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock and can't reach for 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. It's hard. Something is happening. Why are the foreign used cars coming in? The roads are not widening. There's no expansion. Is the rapid rail the way to go? What is happening with crime in the economy? Are we putting enough money, or are we doing it smarter? The economists are here to tell us. I am very proud of this faculty. I must say this. I just came out yesterday from a mediation conference in which the rooms were filled. We are not only teaching the hard disciplines, but we are teaching the soft disciplines as well. We are reaching out. Economists, the economists, and the Department of Economics in particular, I'm proud of that head. Every time I ask, is something going on? She said, yes, Dean, I'm on it. I'm proud of management. Management is doing things. We're reaching out. I'm proud of political science. They have been talking. They have been talking, give them that. And behavioral sciences, of course, they are the disciplines. So we are doing things. This today, I think, and I would like to make a case for inviting more people, please come out. It's a packed two-day session. It's well done. For instance, some of the topics you will see economic and social perspectives around communicable and non-communicable diseases. We are doing enormous work in that area. We are the pioneers of HIV/AIDS, Professor. We are doing that. Social security challenges and opportunities. And we have bright young people leading the panels. For instance, Dr. Darren Conrad, I'm impressed with this young man. We have Birchwood. I sit every day or I walk the corridors, and you know what I do? Not listen to twatwa gossip. I talk to the economists. Even when I had to build my house, I talk to the economists. I miss Danishar. I miss Lester these days because I know he's taken elsewhere. But I'm talking to them, and they are telling me, look at your statistics, look at your figures. This is what we expect. We are not in a recession as yet. The young people, the young economists are talking. So I want to greet you. I want you to take part, because the university is not the ivory tower we think it is. It is about input, discussion, conversations. We are carrying on the conversations. Please be part of it. I bring you greetings. We are very proud that you are here. We are very proud we could continue this tradition. It is built on the hard work of a number of heads and deans, and we are thankful and grateful for that. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I hope to see you for the next 2 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, our chair of these proceedings, former head of department, Mr. Martin Franklin. I know all protocols have been established, and in the interest of time, I would proceed to what I really wanted to say. But it would be remiss of me not to recognize just a few people. One, of course, is our conference honoree, our distinguished Professor Emeritus Carl Theodore, and I'm pleased to say that I'm pleased with the organizing committee that they named this conference after Carl. Well done. I also want to recognize our featured speaker this morning, coming all the way from Washington, the director of the Pan American Health Organization, Dr. Carissa Etienne. I must pay my dues and recognition to the dean of the faculty, or deputy principal. But I also wanted to say a very special warm welcome to our students, both our undergraduate and graduate students in the faculty and the university, and especially our young sixth form students from some of the secondary schools, I think, in the area. Welcome. It's really great to have you here because you represent the future, and I hope this conference inspires you to become great economists. Colleagues, after listening to those introductory words and listening to the dean just now, and having said what I just said in engineering, I'm sorry to be a little bit late. I had to give a speech in engineering, and that was about manufacturing and how manufacturing can help us build a more diversified economy. And in reflecting on that and what I'm hearing, You know, you can't take economics out of anything, including, Dean, the rapid rail issue. Now, I may never have said this before, at least in an audience like this. But the woes you just described were woes that are, how long? 15 years? 20 years? We built more roads, more highways. We built overpasses, and the challenges remain. I, for example, sometimes go to the South Campus in Pinal de Bay in the morning, going against the traffic. And guess what? I see the traffic coming from south, still backing up all the way in Chaguanas and even extending as far as Couva, despite having the overpass. So we have our problems. But I am an optimist because when the rapid rail was being planned, guess what? The university engaged the consultants because one of the biggest ridership is the UWI St. Augustine population, which has grown since. 17, 18,000, 3,000 members of staff. So you're looking at a captive ridership of over 21,000 people, the biggest on the East-West corridor. Coupled with our inability to find parking spaces, you can imagine how I feel about all of this. All that is going through my mind as I listen to you, Dean, I hope the economics can support it. Because from a very functional perspective, and especially as the leader of the St. Augustine campus, I can only see benefits. And let me tell you where the station was going to be. Right at the entrance, the southern entrance there. And that is why, Deputy Principal, they wanted to put the sewer plant in the south entrance, and I was against it. The sewer plant is now going by the Sir Frank Worrell Field, just so that if a station was going to be built, it built there. And let me tell you another story. Rapid rail and rail stations is not only about moving people, important, but they create a level of commerce that is overwhelming sometimes. You go to a rapid rail station or a subway station, it is a shopping mall. Could you imagine the benefits to our students and the population? So anyway, let me don't get too much far and get carried away. But I've said some things to you. I'm hopeful. I've always had a big vision for the development of our country to make it a truly world-class industrialized country. You look at small countries like Singapore, for example. They've done it. They've invested. They don't have as much resources as us. Why can't we do it? And we should always do it at a time when we have resources. But even when we don't have resources, you have to be creative. And at a recent meeting with the engineers, I was the featured speaker, I spoke about using innovative methods, design, finance, build, operate, and eventually transfer. I said there are countries around us, this region, with less resources, challenging times, but still building their infrastructure. Guyana built the bridge over the Berbice River. What a nightmare that was to cross that river for 40, 50 years. You had to pay a toll. It's built by a Dutch company. They're operating it, but you pay a toll. Jamaica is building roads to Montego Bay and now to Ocho Rios. Guess what? Jamaica in troubles. But to use it, pay a toll. The government didn't have to put out any money. The designers, the builders, and the operators do it. We have to find a way to pay it back. What it says, the days of complete freeness, if we want to grow this country, we want to develop it with the vision that we all have, modern, efficient, industrialized, we all have to contribute. So, but I'm not an economist. You economists in our midst. I'm the engineer. And engineers and economists sometimes don't always agree because we have great visions, but economists say you can't do it. I think we have to find a way to work in harmony. Let me say how delighted I am about this conference. It is one of the most anticipated conferences on our campus, and I, like the Dean, share my compliments to the Department of Economics for putting on this conference year after year. You have done great work. Current head Anne-Marie, previous head Martin, and those before, current Dean Anne-Marie, previous deans like Errol Sims, etc., who have supported this effort. This is one of the best conferences that we have on our campus, and my thanks to all of you for making us, as a campus, relevant in terms of shaping a developmental pathway through economics for our country. I also want to recognize once more our featured speaker, Dr. Carissa Etienne. And for those of you who may not be aware, Dr. Etienne is no stranger to the UWI. She's actually a distinguished UWI alumna, having obtained her Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery degree from the UWI Mona campus. So what I would say, welcome back, Dr. Etienne, to your university. We thank you for agreeing to deliver the feature address. We are extremely proud of your achievements. You demonstrate what I have been repeatedly saying, that the UWI is about producing leaders. Not only leaders for our country and the region, but leaders for the world. And that is what you represent. A great example of Caribbean leadership coming out of our regional entity. We are proud of you, and we look forward to not only this presentation, but to your continued support of your university, the West Indies. And of course, this conference is very special for all of us because it's recognizing someone near and dear to us, Professor Emeritus Carl Theodore. Just last evening, I highlighted the fact that Professor Theodore's contribution to the development of the St. Augustine campus through the establishment of the Center for Health Economics in particular, and the service he provided to the Department of Economics, in really it's, came in here in 71. I joined UWI in 69 as a student. Those were still the formative years of this campus. He has been there almost from the beginning. And his contribution, as we reflect on his work, has been nothing short of stellar. We had a wonderful reception last night at the Health Economics Center, and let me again commend the head of the department and the faculty and the dean for doing just that, celebrating Professor Theodore, saying thanks to him for the great work that he has done. But many wonderful tributes were paid to him last night by many who worked closely with him and some who also knew him very intimately. We were also very pleased and honored to have our Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, join us for this event and to also pay his tributes to Professor Theodore. What emerged last night, as I reflected, is that we in the UWI, and this is the regional university of the West Indies, have in our midst an exceptional professor in Carl Theodore, a thoughtful, quiet, humble, and caring professor whose work in economics and health and economics in particular has made an immense contribution to the research and policy formulation of our healthcare systems, not only in Trinidad and Tobago, but in the region and also in the developing world. Professor Theodore is therefore a gentle but giant member of this academy and leaves a great legacy for others to continue to build upon his work. A work that is distinguished not only by scholarly research, but research and action, research and impact, and research that touches the lives of people. Going, what I say, beyond scholarship, going into the scholarship of application. This is something all our scholars who are gathered here this morning should also take seriously in the conceptualization of their research, the communication of your research, and thinking deeply about the impact of one's research. How is my research going to touch the lives of the people? I said that in engineering this morning, my own faculty, and I repeat it here, that we must think deeply of our research so that it truly engages our community and makes a difference to the lives of the people of our community. The people who support the Regional University of West Indies, our stakeholders, they are looking to us to trying to find solutions to their problems. I have said in small island developing states like ours, where does the community turn to for good guidance, good direction, and to help shape a vision for the future? It's only the Regional University of West Indies, because we have the best collection of knowledge and talent anywhere else. We are small island developing states. We don't have that kind of resources. And therefore, it behoves each and every one of us as academics to think not only how academia and scholarship will enhance your welfare, but how academia and scholarship will enhance the welfare and well-being of the peoples of our communities. As Deputy Principal said last night, we need more Carl Theodores who are activist scholars. I also said that, Deputy Principal, yesterday about Dr. Paula Morgan when she launched her book. Not closeted scholars, but scholars who are activists, who are prepared to go out there and share their ideas and their knowledge to help transform the societies in which we live. So this conference on managing development in the Caribbean economies, the key role of health and social security, is very crucial for us. I said last night, and I say it again, this country has invested over the years billions of dollars in the healthcare system. In fact, in the recent budget, the contribution by the government of Trinidad and Tobago to healthcare was $6.088 billion. This is a small country. $6.088 billion. The third highest contribution after national security and education. This is a considerable sum of money. And therefore, we have to thank our government for this contribution. I think we need it. But I think we need more than that to make this work. Because we've been seeing this kind of injection of cash into the system, but yet the system is not working effectively. And therefore, I've been saying, and I've been saying this for a number of years now, that what the system also needs are leaders who can manage and administer the healthcare system. You know, there was one member of parliament recently asked the question, are doctors the best people to manage healthcare? May or may not, I don't know. But what I do know, you need to be trained to manage anything today in today's world. So if you're a doctor, it's great. But you also need to be trained how to manage an enterprise. And that is why I have been so very supportive of us trying to build healthcare professionals who can help drive and manage the healthcare system. And Carl was there at the beginning when we set up the Masters in Public Health using the University of Alabama and the Sparkman Institute of Global Health to help us do this. That program is still on, and I'm pushing very hard, Carl, that they move beyond health economics and epidemiology to get into health administration. And that is why I spoke to Dr. Bailey, who was in the crowd last night. Doc, I need your help, because we need to push. And this is an important area, Dean, for the Department of Management Studies to also get involved. One of the biggest issues in the country today and the region and the world over is health and healthcare. And therefore, we need as a university to step up our training capability to meet different needs in the healthcare system. So I'm hoping that our training programs would really rise to the occasion. I know we are, but we need to do more. And then the research also. The research, for example, of the work of the Health Economics Unit. But so should be the research in medicine, in the Faculty of Medical Sciences. and I see Professor Sitaraman here, and in the Department of Management Studies, in engineering. The research must be used to inform policy making, to help develop a better healthcare system. So teaching, research, and service are so important for all of us, and especially important for the University of West Indies to take a leadership here. I also just wanted to repeat that I don't think the solutions to our problems can be achieved by any single department or unit of this university. To treat with healthcare, it has to be multidisciplinary teams. And while I will agree that our medics, our public health professionals, our economists must be at the center, I also believe our management and leadership specialists, our food, agriculture, and nutrition specialists, our engineers, biomedical engineers, all of us need to work as a team to try to help to find the solutions. As I said at a recent meeting also, this country is stuck with very high food import bills. Food security is a big important and big issue, but so is nutrition security. We are in an environment where we are importing so much food. The intake of such foods leading to what I call overnutrition, obesity, and so we have all these lifestyle diseases. This is all impacting negatively on the health system. We need to arrest these issues in front. But in arresting one issue, if we think about it carefully, we could arrest other issues, like the food import bill. Grow what we eat and eat what we grow. Grow more nutritious foods. The tropics are famous for that. Small island developing states cannot produce high calorific value foods because we don't have the land and land mass. We can produce much more nutritious foods. So colleagues, working together in research teams is the best way forward. Again, I close by extending my very best wishes for the success of this conference, for its continued success. As I said, this is one of the conferences I'm extremely proud of. And I want to especially thank the department, those who are current, like Professor Theodore, like Martin, like Anne-Marie, our current dean, like Anne-Marie, Professor Bissessar. But I also want to thank those who have gone before. The former professors in the Department of Economics, like Professor Bourne, for example, they have laid a great basis for us to build this department. And I'm really hopeful that this conference will inspire some of our younger academics, some potential students of the UWI, to one day become a great and famous economist who can help shape the future of our country and region and create a better and brighter one. I thank you very much.
Dr. Carissa Etienne was elected director of the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, by member states on the 19th of September 2012 and began her 5-year term on the 1st of February 2013. From March 2008 until the 1st of November 2012, Dr. Etienne served as Assistant Director General for Health Systems and Services at the World Health Organization in Geneva, Switzerland. Prior to that, as Assistant Director of PAHO from July 2003 to February 2008, she led 5 technical areas, namely health systems and services, technology, healthcare and research, health surveillance and disease management, family and community health, and sustainable development and environmental health. During her tenures as at WHO and PAHO, Dr. Etienne led the efforts to renew primary health care and to strengthen health systems based on primary health care, promoting integration and improved functioning of health systems. She has also spearheaded policy directions for reducing health inequalities and advancing health for all through universal coverage, people-centered care, the integration of health into broader public policies, and inclusive and participatory health leadership. The World Health Report 2010, entitled Health Systems Financing, the Path to Universal Coverage, was produced under the direction of Dr. Etienne and the World Health Organization's Deputy Director General. In her native Dominica, Dr. Etienne began her career as a medical officer at the Princess Margaret Hospital, where she eventually became the chief medical officer. She has also served in other high-level posts in Dominica, including coordinator of the National AIDS Program, disaster coordinator for the Ministry of Health, chair of the National Advisory Council for HIV/AIDS, and director of primary healthcare services. As indicated by the principal over a while ago, she is an alumnus of the UWI, having obtained her Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery degree from UWI Mona, Jamaica, and later she received her Master's of Science in Community Health in developing countries from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine in the University of London. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that I invite Dr. Carissa Etienne to deliver our feature address.
Thank you, Martin. Well, Professor Sankat has gone, but I want to also recognize him and the role that he's played at the university, but at this morning's program. Professor Anne-Marie Bissessar, Dean Faculty of Social Sciences, Deputy Principal, Rhoda Reddock, Dr. Anne-Marie Mohammed, the head of the Department of Economics, Professor Emeritus Carl Theodore, distinguished officials of the University of the West Indies, distinguished guests, students, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I am so pleased that I was able to participate in these ceremonies celebrating the achievements of a person who has made such significant contribution through health and development in the Caribbean, but a person who is an individual with a good heart. Not many of us have this big heart that Carl has. So I am very pleased to be here this morning with you here in Trinidad and Tobago. I did my final year medicine in Trinidad and Tobago in San Fernando. And I'm really very happy to be back in the Caribbean. I'm also happy to see so many familiar faces, so many friends and colleagues together in this room. All of us committed to advancing health and development in our Caribbean region. You know, I stand here before you and amongst you, not only as a daughter of the Caribbean, but as you heard, a graduate of the University of the West Indies. And I'm especially happy and grateful to be able to address you here at this year's conference on the economy. I am not a health economist. I basically should go back to 101 economics. But I am a health professional. I'm a public health professional. I am a trained public health manager, and I like to see myself as a public health leader. So it is with this background that I speak to you. Having served in a country, a small island developing country with many challenges as far as its economy is concerned, but also having had the advantage and the opportunity of serving both at the regional level and at the global level. I believe that this conference is an annual landmark in the calendar of the university's economics department. But much more than that, it is a forum for the presentation and review of social and economic research to stakeholders and policymakers alike. Research that can improve the health and well-being, the very lives of our Caribbean peoples. As such, I recognize and applaud the university for its commitment to the conference and to the advancement of scholarly research in the public welfare. Recently, the UN General Assembly in New York assembled its 193 members to consider the new Global Sustainable Development Agenda. This bold and universal agenda to eradicate poverty, to fight inequality, and to protect the environment was unanimously adopted. The SDGs, for short, follow on from the Millennium Development Goals and set a new and ambitious framework for countries to develop and implement policies to improve social and economic well-being. And although there is one goal that is specifically dedicated to health, goal number 3, which aims to ensure healthy lives and to promote well-being for all at all ages, we are acutely aware that a concerted effort to achieving the remaining 16 goals will directly and indirectly impact health. We therefore should not and cannot isolate our actions solely within the health sector if we are to realize health for all. At the same time, therefore, we must continue to advocate for health as one of the principal determinants of sustainable development, development that has people at its center. With this in mind, I wish to congratulate you on selecting the theme of this year's conference, Managing Development in the Caribbean Economies, the key role of health and social security. It speaks to the importance of the relationship between health and development. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take a moment as we speak about development to extend my sympathies to two of our Caribbean neighbors, the peoples of the Bahamas and the peoples of Dominica, my home country, for the ravages they have suffered and endured in recent weeks. The Bahamas, which was hit by a Category 4 hurricane last week, which ripped roofs from homes, flooded main roads, spoiled wells for drinking water, damaged and destroyed many healthcare facilities, and forced the closure of small airports, creating a logistical nightmare for rescue and relief efforts, and those continue in the Bahamas. And in Dominica, where villages and infrastructure were devastated by the tropical storm Erica, with incessant rain and landslides, causing the death of at least 30 persons, with dozens more missing. Our thoughts and prayers are with the peoples of these islands, and in particular with the families of those who have lost loved ones. Our economies, our developmental process face vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities over which we sometimes have little control or influence. Climate change further exacerbates these vulnerabilities. And I am told that we are to expect increasing natural disasters. These recent events highlight the fragility of the world we live in. We are a region comprised of small island nations with relatively small economies. We are subject to the peaks and troughs of a global market on factors well outside our sphere of influence. On whether a global powerhouse such as China will grow by 2% or 12% this year, or whether the housing market in the United States will boom or bust. Global consumption and demand on essential commodities, foodstuffs, building materials, oil and petroleum-based products determine pricing and the availability of such products in the Caribbean, while shipping and importation costs mean that such products are for the most part more costly and are less accessible. We remain heavily dependent on the natural beauty of our region as a source of income, on the tourists who come to enjoy our beaches, our towns, and our culture. And yet, we are prone to natural disasters that can devastate the industry and impact directly our ability to generate such income. Here I have to say that an assessment team led by the World Bank pronounced that for repair and reconstruction in Dominica, the bill would be over $600 million. That's higher than the country's gross domestic product. These challenges impact human development, the lives and well-beings of the Caribbean people. We are acutely aware that these threats will persist and increase. And as we come to the full realization of this, we also become aware of the need to make every effort to protect our peoples and our economies insofar as possible from adversity arising from such events. We must work together to put in place the necessary systems and safeguards to ensure that our countries, our economies, and our peoples remain resilient if we must continue to develop and thrive. We need sound policies and governance, democracy and social participation to build and diversify our economies, laying the groundwork for sustainable development. As the SDGs have currently and correctly highlighted, the health and well-being of a nation's people is, in its own right, high ambition. But ensuring the necessary conditions for health and well-being, healthy living spaces, education, labor, access to water and sanitation, access to good nutrition, and of course, a well-organized health system is critical for our people and economies to ensure continued growth and development. We must fight social exclusion, and we must fight inequity. Development that places people at the center must guarantee equitable access to all of the basic conditions that allows a human being to live a productive life and a life of dignity. As director of the Pan American Health Organization, I am fully committed to the ideals and the principles and the values of universal access to health and universal health coverage. By this, I mean that everyone, irrespective of their socioeconomic background, their ethnicity, gender, or race, is covered by a well-financed, well-organized health system offering quality and comprehensive health services, be they curative, promotive, rehabilitative, or palliative. It means that there should be no barrier, either physical, geographical, cultural, or economic, to access health services. It means that people should be protected against financial hardships, and that no one who needs care should become medically indigent or have to sell their house or their cow, or decide to forego care because he or she cannot afford to pay for it. I know this has been central to the work of Professor Theodore. And you know, millions of people become indigent every year because they seek care. And millions more don't even make the effort to access care because they cannot afford it. This is an unjust practice. It is an unjust world that continues to perpetuate this situation. 2 years ago, meeting at PAHO headquarters in Washington, our member states adopted a new 6-year strategy for the region of the Americas. The Caribbean plays a very important role in the regional debate at the Pan American Health Organization. Under the theme, the strategic plan was under the theme, championing health, sustainable development, and equity. These countries embrace the progressive realization of universal health coverage along with the social determinants of health. And I quote, and this is what they said, that this realization of universal health coverage and the social determinants of health were, and I quote, pillars of the strategic plan. countries cited several specific reasons for the absolute necessity to advance towards universal health coverage while addressing the social determinants of health. One, because of the need to address the persistent inequities in health prevailing in the region, inequities that are closely related to economic status, gender, race, and ethnicity, to address social exclusion. Two, the need to consolidate advances in maternal and child health so that the region as a whole can achieve the elusive MDG goal in the very near future. Three, the need to control communicable diseases, including malaria, tuberculosis, and HIV, but also the threat and reality of new emerging disease such as chikungunya, Ebola, or MERS. And you know the story of chikungunya. With 1.5 million persons in the region have been affected within 2 years from chikungunya. They also cited as the fourth reason the need to reduce the burden of non-communicable diseases. This was of particular importance for the Caribbean. The prevention of heart attack, stroke, cardiovascular diseases, cancer, diabetes, and chronic respiratory ailments that account for the vast majority of deaths in this region, and importantly, in the Caribbean. Five, the need to address new causes of high mortality in our region, such as violence, including gender-based violence, road traffic accidents, to mention a few. And six, the need to close gaps in access to and utilization of health services. You see, for the member states of the region, universal health coverage was not sufficient. They wanted explicitly as well to speak about universal access to health. And we are the first region in the world to have a strategy and plan of action that speaks to universal access to health and universal health coverage. So in this region, we've lost no time in moving forward and addressing these issues. Last year, our member states took a major step forward by adopting a formal strategy on universal access to health and universal health coverage, requesting that the Secretariat, PAHO, supports countries in the preparation of national roadmaps towards universal health coverage and universal access to health. And so we see that many of our countries are moving, and they are moving quickly. Countries are now making investments in health systems and expanding the access to health services. We see countries in the region grappling to address the segmentation and fragmentation that exists particularly in Latin America, but is a growing concern in the Caribbean as well. We see member states beginning to ask pointed questions about their social security systems. This segmentation and fragmentation has, in a large manner, been caused by multiple providers, social security, private providers, and the public provider. And this fragmentation and segmentation, which so characterizes healthcare in Latin America, leads to exclusion, to differentials in quality of service, to inefficiencies, and costs lives. I think we need always to come back to this. It is related to the life and well-being of our people. So we see countries such as El Salvador, Panama, and Ecuador integrating health services between the Ministry of Health and Social Security providers. Colombia is standardizing the package of health services offered irrespective of affiliation. And Brazil has increased access to primary care services to more than 63 million people within 2 years. They've done that with a program called Mais Medicos, where they are training an increasing number of doctors that are oriented to working in the community and in primary health care. In the Caribbean, we have seen countries like the Bahamas proposing the establishment of a universal national health insurance scheme, Jamaica increasing the national health budget while eliminating direct payment at the point of service, and even Haiti adopting a model of care built on the premise of primary health care. These countries and many others throughout the region are making the sound decision to invest in health, not only because it is the right thing to do, but because there is also an important return to be made. So it's no longer, you know, they used to make us feel in health before, because I've been around for a long time, that health is this black hole that you pour money into it and it just disappears and you don't get any returns on your investment. We believe that when you invest in making people healthy, in making them productive, and also in affording them dignity, that directly allows development, it is directly allows, and I'm not an economist, but it directly feeds into your economy. In December 2013, a special Lancet Commission revisited the case for investment in health and developed a new investment framework to achieve dramatic health gains by 2035. The commission, in which our Director Emeritus of PAHO and the Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, Sir George Arlene, participated, noted that there is an enormous payoff in investing in health, not just from the improved economic productivity, but also from the intrinsic value of health itself. Such evidence may assist planning ministries in guiding investments as they can increase overall returns by increasing their domestic financing of high priority health and health-related initiatives. Furthermore, the Commission noted that with enhanced investments in health technologies, a grand convergence is achievable within our lifetime to close the gap in infectious child and maternal mortality between developed and developing countries. Thirdly, the concept of progressive universalization was recognized as an efficient way to achieve health and financial protection, either through proper targeted investments in publicly financed insurance mechanisms or through pooling a range of financing sources to offer a wider range of universally available services. And finally, the Commission noted that fiscal policies remain a powerful and yet underused lever for the curbing of non-communicable diseases and injuries. As we are beginning to see in a number of our countries, including some Caribbean countries, national governments can curb the growing non-communicable disease burden and raise significant revenue by heavily taxing tobacco and other harmful substances, and can thereafter redirect taxes towards expanding access to comprehensive health services, and in particular to promotion, including NCD control. The famous sin taxes. And we note that in the Port of Spain Declaration, where heads of government sat and decided as to how they were going to tackle this NCD problem that was besetting our countries, the sin taxes were included. The imposition of taxes, import and other taxes on tobacco and alcohol, foods of high sugar, high salt, and high fats. Few countries in the Caribbean have ensured that these are implemented. But as we note the recommendations of such commissions and witness the steps that countries are taking on the path towards universal health, we must also recognize that there remains much to be done. And there remains much to be done in the Caribbean. When I grew up as a little girl, everyone had access to the equal level of basic care. Every community had a clinic, and there was a hospital, and everyone could access those. With increasing modernization, with growing demand, with the epidemiological and demographic transition, our governments have found themselves in a position where they are unable, using the current financing systems, to provide access to care for all who need it. So we must, and I need to say that I am also I have a little disquiet about the way our health systems in the Caribbean are proceeding. In a piecemeal fashion, we see a growing, certainly increase in our private health services that are totally unregulated, private health services that are not really oriented to delivering primary health care or to ensuring that other people have access to their services. So we are on the path of developing quality, high standard health care for those who have the money. And our public health facilities are in disrepair for the greater part, are not financed adequately, are not staffed adequately, and even when they are staffed, those staff are leaving the public facilities and going to their private offices for most of the day. So there is a low quality of care that is being delivered within our public financed healthcare facilities, and it is just not right. It is not just right that a family who lives next door to a private clinic cannot access care there when they are sick. It is not right that right next to the private clinic, there is a government clinic that is offering a totally different standard of care to the one that it sits next by. This is a waste of resources. It is inefficient, and we must do better. On average, the countries of the Americas spend nearly 4% of public expenditure on health. Caribbean countries spend slightly higher at around 4.3% of expenditure on health. But wealthy countries that have moved effectively towards universal health allocate 8% of public financing. We in PAHO recommend, based on the experience in OECD countries, a minimum of 6% as a target in the short term. That might seem like a lot, and I grant that it is, but for some of our countries, arriving at that threshold is mostly a matter of political will, and a political will that has to be demanded from the bottom up, from the bottom up. You know, if you look around the world, there are countries that have achieved universal health coverage while they were still poor, while they were not even middle-income countries. Countries like Thailand, countries like Japan, they achieved universal health coverage when they were not super economies. So we can do it if we have the political will. Universal health cannot be achieved without making the necessary investment in health. We continue to urge countries to progressively increase financing in health, in particular to expand access to comprehensive quality services based on primary care and integrated networks. We need to be able to pull the private clinic, the social security service, and the public service into one big integrated network. It works. There are countries in the Americas that are currently doing this. And what they find is that they are becoming much more efficient. They are covering a wider sphere of the population, and they are being more efficient and delivering higher quality of care. This means making investments in our primary care level so that the health system can reach those who are in need. It means strengthening health promotion and prevention services, investing in community workers that facilitate outreach into schools and other community and social services. It means eliminating direct payment at the point of service. If you don't remember anything of what I have said today, I want you to remember this, that payment at point of service, so when you go and you get the service, then you have to dig your hand in your pocket and pay. That is a disincentive to individuals seeking care. It results in poorer health and increased but delayed healthcare costs. It is the worst way to pay for health services. So we need to get rid of payment at point of service. I believe strongly that such payments disproportionately impact the poor, and in particular women, who are often the head of households, and will bear the principal burden of these costs. All evidence shows that such payments, when significant, can result in the impoverishment of the family. So it means that we must institute the prepayment mechanisms, the pooling of resources, and also government subsidies so that all can have access to the care that they need. We have heard from some countries that given their financial circumstances, there is simply no fiscal space to increase financing for health. Do you know, would you like me to tell you what I say to prime ministers and ministers of health when I hear this? I urge them to do three things. Firstly, I say talk across sectors, across government, to see where the investments are being made in the environment, in education, in trade and commerce, to see how better decision-making in these areas can improve the health and well-being of the people. We have seen in other countries, such as Brazil, that 70% of all spending in health is executed outside of health. Imagine being able to influence such level of expenditure on and with the interests of health. Secondly, I tell them, look closely at your health system. How can you seek efficiencies, shifting expenditure to the first level of care, the primary care level, pooling resources to increase procurement capacity, developing integrated networks to avoid duplication in service provision, focusing on quality improvements in services, promoting the use of generic medicines, and developing human resources policy that ensure that health workers respond to the need of the health system. We are quickly going down the path that the Latin American countries have found themselves. In Latin America, there are more specialists than there are primary healthcare doctors than there are nurses. It is a totally inverted pyramid. Yes, we must have specialists that are well-trained and well-deployed, but that should not be at the cost of ensuring that we have doctors at the first level of care and other healthcare workers that can deliver care at the first level of care. That is the most cost-effective way to build a healthcare system. The World Health Report, which Professor Sankat referred to in 2010, estimated that 30 to 40% of all health expenditure is inefficient. In other words, wasted. We do not know what the level of inefficiency in our health systems in the Americas or even in the Caribbean is at present. However, we are sure that there are opportunities to better utilize the scarce resources that we have, to improve healthcare delivery for our people. And of this, I am certain. Thirdly, I tell them, look carefully to the wide range of possibilities to increase fiscal space, including economic growth, more efficient tax collection, reduction of fiscal illusion and fiscal evasion, and fight against waste and corruption. And corruption is a big deal in the Americas, even in the Caribbean. enough said on that. I tell them ultimately that additional and better targeted resources are urgently needed for health, and that financing universal health coverage is not only about the number of dollars spent, but how those dollars are spent to improve health outcomes for your peoples. And so this brings me to a simple conclusion, and I hope that based on all of what Professor Theodore has written and his colleagues and the work that has been done, that this is your simple conclusion as well, that universal health coverage and universal access to health constitute sound economics. Sound in the production of efficient and effective use of resources, in the provision of health services that respond to the needs of the people, in the organization of health services that are rational, responsive, and primary care based, and the development of resilient systems that have surge capacity that can withstand shocks from either natural disasters or new and emerging diseases. When we look at all of the assessments that were done, both of WHO but also of the wider global community as far as Ebola in West Africa is concerned, the bottom line is that the health system was not sufficiently resilient. In some instances, it was totally not developed or absent. I believe it is sound economics in the production of services that improve health and well-being of the individual and family, particularly through community action at the primary care level, through health promotion and prevention, addressing key risk factors and the social determinants of health. In the development of policies and governance mechanisms that promote social protection and well-being, that provide the necessary assurances for the population as they move throughout the life course. I believe it's sound economics in the generation of additional life years that are healthy life years that lead to increased productivity and wealth of a nation in all its forms and support its continued growth and development. Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin, future leaders and current leaders, as we begin to reflect on how the SDGs can now be translated into concrete actions at the national level in the preparation of policies, plans, and actions that ensure health and sustainable development, I am sure of one thing: universal health access and universal health coverage provides us with a roadmap forward. I was truly elated in September of last year when our member states adopted the regional strategy, and we remain committed to working with our countries to support those national and context-specific roadmaps moving forward. This has been my life's passion, my life's dream, and the vision that continues to drive my work. I believe that every man, woman, and child must have access to basic services and services that they need in a situation where they can experience their dignity and where they can live full and productive lives. I have no doubt that we will see a grand payoff from our investments in terms of bigger, stronger, resilient, and more inclusive societies and economies, including those right here in the Caribbean. And this is my daily prayer, my daily vision, and my wish that continues to drive me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Etienne, for that very insightful presentation on universal access to health and universal health coverage. We thank you for your very candid comments in terms of the state of our health systems within the Caribbean, the challenges to these systems and the challenges that these systems face, but also we thank you for the suggested strategies that you have put before us, and we hope that these will in fact be given serious consideration. May I ask that you show your appreciation again for a very splendid presentation. I now ask Professor Carl Theodore to come to the podium to make a small presentation to Dr. Etienne as a token of appreciation for taking the time to come and for sharing with us her thoughts on UHC and universal access to health. Thank you very much, Professor Theodore. Now, don't leave, Professor Theodore. I suggest you stay on the stage. And I would ask our Dean, Professor Anne-Marie Bissessar, to please come and make a small presentation to Professor Carl Theodore. To mark the occasion of this conference and the fact that he's the honoree of this conference. Thank you very much, Professor Bissessar. Ladies and gentlemen, may I ask the drivers of PCE 927, PDH 2756, and PCS 2700 remove their cars, please, from the present locations in which they are parked. In the lead up to this conference each year, we seek to engage our undergraduate students here on the campus and students of our secondary schools in undergraduate debate competition and in a secondary schools debate. This year, the undergraduate debate competition was held on the 1st of October, and the topic was, be it resolved that cutting expenditure in the health sector during periods of low economic growth is a viable option. The teams in that debate were drawn from the UWI and from the University of the Southern Caribbean. And I'm proud to announce that the winner was in fact the UWI team. And they've done this for the first time in about 3 or 4 years. So I now ask the Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences to please come forward again to make presentations to the winning team, Christopher Chong, Janelle Singh, and Zane Mitchell. And to the runners-up, Shanice Semper, Carson Smith, and Keon Charles from the University of the Southern Caribbean. Are they here? Are they not here? Okay, fine. And don't go yet, Prof. The topic for the secondary schools debate, be it resolved that the delivery of social services cannot be improved during periods of economic downturn. The debating teams were drawn from Queen's Royal College and Bishop Anstey High School. The winner, the team from Queen's Royal College, Ronaldo Blake and Nickel Lewis. Thank you very much, Dean. We also had an undergraduate essay competition and a secondary school essay competition. And I will ask Professor Theodore if he will approach the stage to present the prizes for these two competitions. The topic for the secondary school essay competition: what are the economic implications of the increased prevalence of HIV/AIDS and other communicable diseases on Caribbean economies? The first prize goes to Damani Modeste of QRC, the second prize to Matthias Bailey of QRC, and the third prize to Crystal Jackson of St. Joseph Convent, San Fernando. Any of those persons present? I don't think St. Joseph Convent is present today, but Mr. Modeste and Mr. Bailey. Thank you very much. Prof, don't go yet. And the undergraduate essay competition, the topic was developing health and wellness tourism within the Caribbean, threat or opportunity. The first prize goes to Lisa Thomas of UWI, second to Sarah Mohammed, also of UWI, and the third to Elizabeth Harewood, also of UWI. Are those persons present? They may come forward, please. Thank you very much, Professor. Specially invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of this opening ceremony, and so it is only fitting that I express sincere thanks to the many persons who made this ceremony possible. Let me first say thanks to Almighty God for the privilege of all of us participating in this ceremony. Special thanks to Dr. Carissa Etienne for her thought-provoking feature address, to the campus principal, PVC Professor Sankat, and our dean, Professor Anne-Marie Bissessar, for their greetings, the head of department, Dr. Anne-Marie Mohammed, for her warm welcome. Our sponsors, the gold sponsor, the Faculty of Social Sciences, and the silver sponsors, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Health, the Regulatory Industries Commission, the RIC, and the National Lotteries Control Board, the NLCB. The Republic Bank Limited, who sponsored the youth debate competitions, and Kyrie Consultants Limited, who sponsored the attendance of Southeast Port of Spain to the conference. that is Southeast Port of Spain Secondary. To the management and staff of the LRC for the use of this facility, to the non-academic staff, the graduate students, and the student volunteers from the Department of Economics, to the fellow members of the COTE 2015 Planning Committee, and last but by no means least, your invited guests or conference presenters or conference session chairpersons or secondary school students and our members of the campus community for your presence and your support. It was remiss of me at the beginning to not ask that we stand and play the national anthem. So I will ask that we please stand now. For the national anthem of Trinidad and Tobago.